Halls of Torment, a game that can probably give you everything you were probably looking for in Diablo 4 for a whopping $4. Halls of Torment might look familiar to you as some of your favorite streamers like Asmongold have been hopping on the bandwagon that this game has been building, as well as the hype train of just this genre in general from Vampire Survivors or just the other Survivors type games. Halls of Torment is a bullet hell roguelike game that gives you just some really nice nostalgia, as well as a very well put together game that is enjoyable no matter how long you might be playing it. And it also just might really bring you into this genre a little bit better than Vampire Survivor might have. In Halls of Torment, you'll be playing the pretty generic and standard Survivor type game. You'll go in, you'll have 30 minutes, and you will be on this map clearing out mobs trying to last as long as possible. In Halls of Torment specifically, there's going to be 7 classes that you're able to choose from that are unlocked slowly. You'll start out with a swordsman, and you will make your way through Archer, Cleric, Exterminator, Warlock, Sorceress, and Shield Maiden. Each one of these classes has their own unique weapon and abilities, so there's definitely a playstyle that you are going to enjoy in one of those 7 classes. Currently, you'll find yourself given 3 options in regards to which hall you want to torment. However, at the beginning of the game, you only have 1 map unlocked. As you progress through this map, defeat the bosses, you will unlock those other 2 maps. Hopping into the game, you'll find yourself at this camp. This camp is going to have all of your heroes located here, as well as a couple really helpful side features that are going to help you play through the game, as well as level up and get stronger. In the camp, you'll be able to choose your main hero that you want to play for the run, as well as use currency that you gain through playing to give yourself additional stats. You're also able to talk to a merchant that uses this well system to retain items for you to equip. There is a quest board that will help you track all of your achievements. And lastly, there is a potion merchant that sells these potions that you gather ingredients for, each one of these potions doing different things for you, ranging from re-rolling the abilities that you got when you leveled up to increasing some stats. Hopping right into it, you'll walk up to this giant door and you'll be given a choice of which map you want to play. These maps do scale in difficulty from left to right, with the first map being the easiest and the last map being the most difficult. As you hop into this first map, you're going to find yourself surrounded by mobs of enemies that spawn every 2 minutes. By defeating these enemies, you're going to be seeing these little crystals on the ground that range from blue, yellow, purple, and then just giant stacks depending on if you just let them stack up on the ground. And this is going to be your experience. You can see your experience bar on the left side. You level up 1 to 100, and through these levels, you're given the option to choose a specific stat that you want to increase. Depending on what class you are playing, as well as what abilities you have, you'll be given different options to level up. Certain characters are better at certain things. For example, the Cleric has some of the best HP regen in the game, whereas the Archer is better at being fast. While you might see the same skill to level up, there's going to be a varying range of actual numbers depending on the class that you're playing. As you make your way through this map, outside of just the enemies, there's also a ton of breakable objects, and this is where you're going to find gold. This is where you're going to find health potions or other items to heal you. And there's also some occasional secrets, as well as these items called scrolls. Now, these scrolls, there's generally 1 to 2, depending on what map you are playing on. And these scrolls are how you get your abilities. Now, these abilities are separate from your main weapon, and they include things like meteors that fall from the sky, lightning bolts, golems, AoE damage, and things of that nature. Now, when you get these scrolls, you're able to choose between 3 different abilities, and then once you get this ability, it is now added into your leveling system, so when you level up, you're able to put additional stats towards that ability. Now, you will lose these at the end of the run, so don't feel obligated to pick one or the other because you think you're going to need it for later. Everything gets wiped at the end of the run, so don't stress yourself. You're able to have 6 of these abilities at once, or you can just use 1 or 2. It really depends on what you're going for and what options you're given when you pick these scrolls up. Outside of the scroll, there's also the wells. Now, the wells are the way for you to get items back to your camp. Now, while you're working your way through this map, elite mobs will spawn, and those are highlighted in blue, and boss mobs will spawn, and those are highlighted in red. Now, elite mobs, they're going to have an increased amount of HP, as well as do increase damage as well as have some special abilities. And the elite mobs are going to drop those scrolls that give you the abilities, and the boss mobs are actually going to drop chests that contain items. Now these items, you do not get to carry them over into your next run, and the only way to actually get them into your camp is to use this well. So it's an interesting mechanic to kind of slow down your progression, but in itself, it's not something too overwhelming. And lastly, there is this hand. This hand is a pretty generic thing that you'll find in every single one of these survivor-like games, and that will pull all of the Exp gems on the floor to you. So you're not going to be able to pick up all of them. It's just kind of impossible, especially in the early game. You're not that strong. So you're going to be leaving a lot of them on the ground, which is probably going to make you sad if you're like me. And this hand is going to draw them all to you, so you can play around this. They're able to spawn in the breakable objects that you'll find everywhere on the map, so you might just get lucky finding them on the ground. And there's also always one spawned at the beginning of your map, so you can also play around that one. The game itself is very enjoyable. The music and the ambiance is fantastic. The world designs and the mob designs are very unique and fun. And as well as kind of like the way that the mobs actually walk around and move, there's a lot more thought. Instead of just like the generic, the mobs run towards your character, they actually have different movement patterns that really increase the difficulty, which has been pretty fun. All 7 classes are very enjoyable, and while there are some that are definitely just better than the other ones, you're able to get enjoyment from every single one of the classes. I've been able to clear every map with every one of the classes, so there's not something that is just unplayable. And the additional abilities that you get through the scrolls are all very fun. Same thing like the classes, some of them are just significantly better than the others, but if you're given, the choice of the worst 3, they're not going to be so detrimental that it's not worth getting. They're always worth picking up. I will say, however, that there are some things in this game that I was specifically hoping would be kind of fixed by this point. This genre has really picked up in the last couple of years, at least in the mainstream of most people that are playing games. And I feel like this game has the same problems that a lot of the other bullet hell roguelike games have, or just, I like to call it the survivor genre, as these games are all similar. They're not exactly bullet hells and they're not exactly roguelikes, but they're a mix of the two. And these problems have to do with, one, this game, the bosses just have too much HP. Not in a sense that like it's too hard to do, more in a sense of you're gonna have to kill this boss for like 5 to 10 minutes. And it's not like interesting, it just literally takes that long because their HP is so high. You're able to fairly easily dodge through the mechanics and abilities that they have. It's just, sidestepping for the most part. However, I feel like when you're pretty comfortable getting through the run, at the end of 30 minutes, you don't need to fight a boss that has 5 to 10 to 15 minutes worth of HP. If it was 5 minutes, playing through the same mechanics is probably enjoyable. However, once it gets over 5 minutes, you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And for me, doing a boss fight for that long is just not enjoyable when the mechanics do not change outside of the first 5 to 10 seconds. This is specifically bad for the last 2 bosses. The first map is reasonable. However, the second and the third bosses are just absolutely insane, the amount of time that it takes for you to actually wear down the boss slowly. I don't mean the bosses that spawn during the map, but the boss that spawns at the end of 30 minutes. They're just a little bit overtuned in regards to HP. They don't deal, crazy amounts of damage, and their mechanics are not so difficult that it's unplayable. But I feel like, after 20 hours of playing the game, having all of those extra skills maxed out, having all of your abilities leveled up, and being the highest level that you could possibly be, a boss fight probably shouldn't take 10 to 15 minutes. The second kind of major problem that I have is this game has no extra modifiers for if you want to make the game more difficult. And for the first, 10 hours, it's not really that big of a deal. But for me, after the first, second or third run on each map, they were no longer difficult to actually clear, regardless of what class I was playing. As you play through the game and get those items out through the well system, as you level up your stats with currency, your characters all get much stronger. And I feel like they either need to tune down the stats that you're given, because you get a fair amount of just additional power through that currency system that you'll find in the camp, as well as starting out with a full kit of gear. The first map is almost too easy once you get past it. The second map while there are some annoying mechanics, the general level of difficulty isn't really that bad. I'm able to stand still and not worry about anything, regardless of what class I'm playing on, outside of moving around for that last boss. And then the same thing is happening with the third map. And while I understand that this game is in early access, I do feel like this is something that is very common throughout the genre, and I feel like it is one of the more important things if you're actually trying to make the game somewhat difficult. Not to a level where it's unplayable, but to where every single map, it feels like you have to really struggle to get through it. With it being early access, however, I will just give it the benefit of the doubt and hope that they will make these changes as the game releases further. I feel like extra modifications for difficulty is always something that these survivor type games will benefit from. And I'm mostly just talking about increased mob density, increased mob HP, maybe you can decrease your own damage, maybe you decrease movement speed, things of that nature that increase the difficulty if you want to. The base game doesn't need to be that hard, but it should never be in a place where after 10 hours you're able to clear everything without any problems. Well, that's about it, guys. If you liked the review, give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe, really appreciate it. If you didn't, give me a thumbs up anyways, but definitely let me know down below if your opinion differs from mine, because I enjoy talking about this stuff. And then let me know what your favorite builds are. There's been a lot of really fun things I've been able to do, especially with the ring that changes your main melee weapon, your main weapon damage to fire. That, I feel like, opens up so many different builds that you might not even consider, just because fire damage is so freaking busted right now. So let me know down below what your favorite builds are, and I hope to see you on the next one.